Well, guys, Wonderboy Thompson and Jose Aldo proved that the old legends still got it. We're talking about the last UFC fight card of the year right now. What's up, Barn Hill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, we had the last fight card of 2020. It's been quite a tumultuous year, but I think they went out with a great card, and what a great last fight of the calendar year 2020. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Geoff Neal. At 37 years old, Stephen Thompson proved he still got it.
Absolutely. Definitely deserves to be in the top 5 as his rankings show. And, he was clearly way ahead on the scorecards. As the judges saw it, we all saw it as well. And he could have easily coasted that entire last round or even just the last minute of it. But he didn't. He kept the fight going all the way till the very last bell. And that's why you got to love Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, he was literally on one leg in the last round, last round and a half of that fight. You could tell he really couldn't put a whole lot of weight on it. He could barely throw it. He tried to throw a few kicks with it and realized it just wasn't happening. And like you said, it was 50-45, all 5 rounds to Wonderboy Thompson on all 3 judges' scorecards. So he really could have coasted that last round. He could have moved around, thrown a jab. He's very long. He's very rangy. He could have kept himself out of trouble, but that's just not Wonderboy, man. Wonderboy Thompson, he's must-see TV. He's always exciting. And what I think you had here is just a classic situation of there's levels to this game. You know, we saw it in the Jose Aldo versus Chito Vera fight. We saw it in the Wonderboy Thompson versus Geoff Neal fight. I can't really say that Geoff Neal did something terribly wrong in that fight. Geoff Neal is a very fundamentally sound kind of guy. He comes at you with his hands up. He throws a lot of straight punches, and he puts a lot of power behind him. But it was like he was trying to fight a ghost in there with Wonderboy Thompson.
Yeah, and Wonderboy's so good at what he does, and it looked like he could have gone another 5 rounds. I mean, his endurance and his cardio is something that's probably unmatched at welterweight. You see, and that's a division that's known for guys with great gas tanks. But I mean, he looked as fresh as a daisy in round 5. I would have been really bummed if that incidental headbutt, would have stopped the fight at the beginning of the fight, because that was just when it was starting to get fun. And Geoff Neal is a very great technical striker, but he's very basic, and like a lot of boxing, a lot of MMA coaches say basics win fights. That is very true, but you do have to get a little bit creative when you're fighting somebody as unorthodox and unique as Wonderboy Thompson. And it's not for lack of trying. Geoff Neal was absolutely trying to get the job done. It's just some people just can't come up with the right potion and the right combinations at the time to get the job done against such a high-level striker.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, and I think that we really have to start considering, and hopefully he said he's going to make a title run, and 2021 is going to be his year, and he's going to be the champ at the end of the year. Who knows? But
I've always wanted to see him with a title.
Oh, man, he's one of the people that I really would love to see the strap. As far as deserving, just being a good guy, a great ambassador for the sport, you just don't get any better than Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But if he does wrap his career having never gotten that title, I think we need to start putting him in the conversation for best fighter to have not gotten a title in UFC history, because he really, he was in there. He had the draw with Woodley. He's been at the top for so long. And at 37 years of age, one thing you see as people get older is their speed tends to go a little bit. Wonderboy looks as fast and sharp as ever.
Yeah. Yeah, they always say power is the last thing to go. The first few things to go are the speed, the endurance, the flexibility, the dexterity. But he seems to have all of that. His game plan is largely built around flexibility, dexterity, speed, and then, obviously some crazy angles and stuff like that. But, he looked like the best version of Wonderboy that we maybe have ever seen. I know he didn't get a finish, but that was pretty much a flawless victory. And he looked as sharp in the first round in the 5th round as he did in the first round. The top 5 that he has to deal with to get to the title is so tough.
Yeah.
And not only are they tough, opponents, the matchups and the styles of fighting is just so tough. He's a great striker, and he's great with takedown defense, but some of the guys there are just dogs. Your Kamaru Usman's obviously is at the very top. Your Colby Covington's. Even George Masvidal is a very great fighter from the ground, and it's just one of those things where I want to see him do it. I think he can do it, but it's going to be a very tough road to the title.
Yeah, and he called out Jorge Masvidal for a rematch. He actually won that fight the first time around. And I think that would be a great fight. He said the NMF versus the BMF. And by the way, the NMF is so fitting for him because he literally rocked Geoff Neal with a shot and then asked him if he was okay.
Yeah.
Who does that other than Stephen Thompson?
Yeah, he's one of a kind. And that's one thing I said when we were watching it is it's not fake. It's not some personality he's trying to like show off and like, oh, let me be the really nice guy. That's just natural reactions for him. He does stuff like that. Imagine sparring with him. Like, you know, he tagged you and he makes sure you're okay. Like, I bet he's the best sparring partner, training partner you could possibly have.
And his dad giving Geoff Neal water from his bottle after the fight was over with. I mean, just
the apple doesn't fall far from
classy
the tree.
family, classy people. Great win for Stephen Thompson. Yeah. I am so biased and so partial. I've been a fan of his for so long, and I really do hope that he can make a title run and you know, this last little stretch of his career is as exciting as it possibly can be.
Absolutely.
And I think, you know, the other thing about Wonderboy, as you said, is like the when you think about what starts to go as you get older, speed, dexterity, flexibility, your cardio tends to go. He showed that he's got all of those tools at his disposal still. And what's so amazing to me is that he can literally kick you from like a dirty boxing close range. So usually like you see guys having to create some distance and work in the V to get good kicks to land. Stephen Thompson can literally jab you, hit you, like close the distance, throw an uppercut, and then the next strike to come is a head kick over the top from a seemingly impossible angle. There's not many people that can do that.
No, I mean, boxing range is totally different than kickboxing range, and MMA range is kind of, you know, a mix of all of the ranges. You know, you got the we call it like the safe zone, and then you're in the red zone, which is not so much the safe zone. And then once you close the distance, you're back into the safe zone as far as striking goes. And in MMA, it seems like he can be in any one of those positions and be, you know, effective with his striking. I mean, one thing I will say I wish I would see more out of Wonderboy Thompson, which it's hard to critique anything about his performance, but I feel like if he used some of those kicks and threw him at the legs as well as the body. He throws so much to the body and so much to the head and a lot of stuff on the shoulders. It keeps people's hands up. Geoff Neal did a great job keeping his hands up. I mean, if he didn't, he would have gone to sleep off a head kick. But I think to get their hands to come down a little bit is throw some things at those legs and get them, you know, the game plan against Wonderboy is something that all of his opponents know going into it. We need to march him down. And eventually, hopefully, he can't circle. He zigs when he's supposed to zag. He circles the wrong way. We catch him with something heavy. But the more your legs get chewed up in a fight and over the time, especially 5 rounds, he's a 5-round fighter, it becomes more difficult to chase somebody down when you're constantly getting kicked in the legs. So if I could add one thing to Wonderboy's game, and I mean, he doesn't need me as a coach, but I would say just throw a few more leg kicks because I think you could slow your opponents down and piece them up even a little bit more than he already is.
Absolutely. And not just that. You also could, like you said, Geoff Neal had that super high guard, and if he didn't, he would have gone to sleep. But one thing that can drop that guard down sometimes is a couple of really well-placed, well-timed body and leg kicks, and that can start. You'll see the opponents kind of gradually start to drop their arms, and then you can throw a few body kicks and see how he's reacting, and then maybe surprise him with one over the top where the guard isn't so high and catch a knockout. But like you said, it's hard to critique Stephen's game, and he obviously does everything he does methodically for a reason. But I was seeing the same shots you were seeing. I said, man, the body's open there. Because Geoff is doing such a good job of protecting the head. No lost steam for Geoff. No. He's still got a bright future. He's still a young guy, a Contender Series up-and-comer. And I think it was just simply a matter of somebody who was just a bit outclassed by a better opponent. And I think Geoff Neal will become a better fighter because of this match.
Oh, for sure. He showed a lot of toughness, a lot of grit. And the experience you get going 5 rounds with somebody like that in a main event, you know, this wasn't slated to be the main event originally. Now they can both say that they've been, for Wonderboy, in another main event, and for Geoff Neal, he's been in a main event environment and had to deal with the media and stuff like that. So I think his stock went up. I think we're going to see him, you know, move a little bit down in competition. As far as he might not get a top 5 guy, he'll probably get a top 10 guy next. But I think we're going to see some really special things come out of Geoff Neal in the coming years.
Most definitely. And then another competition would be the co-main, where you had sort of a similar situation, almost identical in the sense that it was a really promising up-and-comer who just had an amazing win over a guy that nobody expected him to beat in Sean O'Malley. That's Cheeto Vera. He defeated Sean, and then he gets Jose Aldo right out of the gate, which is a tall order. Jose is arguably the best 145er of all time. Legend, Hall of Famer, all of the accolades that you could possibly want. Becoming a mixed martial artist, Jose will have or already has. And you have Cheeto Vera going in there and trying to take him out. And it was just another situation where he was good, but he's not quite that good yet.
Yeah, and Cheeto, I mean, he did do all right. I will say that, you know, Jose Aldo is coming off a losing skid. You know, he's kind of been trying to find his footing at 135, and he looks great. He did the things that he needed to do to get his body down there and to look like a healthy fighter at 135. But even though he's been losing a lot, he's still, in a lot of people's minds, in my mind personally, a number one contender.
Yeah.
Meaning, if a bunch of people stepped out or got coronavirus and couldn't take the fight last second, you can call Jose Aldo, and he's worthy of a title shot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, at 135. Maybe not 145 anymore, but 135 he still is. So, you know, Marlon Vera had his hands full with a guy who I think is always 1 or 2 wins away from a title fight. You know, Cheeto is a very, we like to say up-and-comer, and that's what he is, but he has such a long record with the UFC. I mean, he's got so many finishes, more than almost everybody in the bantamweight division. He looks great, but he's still having that slow burn, and I think this was a great true test for him. It's definitely a jump in competition when you go from O'Malley to Jose Aldo, but you know, they bit off a little bit more than he could chew, and I think they're going to regroup, give him somebody a little bit closer to the 15-ranked spot that he's at in the rankings. And I definitely see a bright future for Cheeto Vera at 135.
Yep, I do too. And one thing that Jose Aldo did extremely well, being kind of the shorter fighter, is he really went to the body and found a lot of success there. He would mix it up, throwing some jabs to the head, and he was able to land some straight body punches that were pretty powerful, some body hooks. And I think that took the wind out of Cheeto's sails a little bit.
For sure. And a couple of things that Jose Aldo has always done better than almost everybody in the sport. And I'm so happy we saw it again tonight, because it was like Jose of old, because it seemed he had gotten away from this for a little while, but punches to the body. It's very hard in MMA because of the distance we were talking about earlier to slip punches and send body uppercuts and body hooks and stuff. It's just the range makes it very difficult to land those effectively. He was doing those and landing them really well. It looked like some of them actually really hurt Vera.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other thing that might be the strongest part of Aldo's game that he seemed to abandon a while back was leg kicks.
Yep.
His leg kicks looked brutal. I thought for a second he was going to take Vera out like Vera took O'Malley out with leg kicks. I mean, you saw a couple of them, and they made his legs buckle, and he almost turned and ran away a couple of times. So Jose Aldo probably kicks harder pound for pound than some of MMA's finest.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy to see that he kind of went back to what was working for him. The very strong leg kicks, high pressure, great slipping, great boxing, and finding the body and tearing into the body to slow down and kill the gas tank of his opponent.
Yeah, you know, and we were talking about this. The UFC has this 60-person cut sort of looming, and I think that the matchmakers are kind of saying, let's take a look at some of our veterans, some of our older guys, some of the Wonderboys, some of the Jose Aldo, people like that, and let's put them out there and let's see how they can perform against a young up-and-comer. And I don't want to go so far as to say that Wonderboy and Jose were fighting for their job tonight, but they were certainly fighting like they were fighting for their job tonight. And I think maybe the UFC is going to realize that some of these guys that are in their late 30s, you know, that have a lot of fights under their belt, while they're on the back nine of their career, they still got a few good holes left to play.
Absolutely. And yeah, I don't think that specifically Jose Aldo and Wonderboy were on the chopping block, but there are people like Jose and Wonderboy that are on the chopping block. The guys that the UFC's had around for a long time, maybe they've had the belt before. Anthony Pettis is another one who fought this evening.
Yeah.
That they've tasted gold before, and now they're on their way back. They don't really see a path back to the title or anything like that. But the UFC is still paying them a lot of money, and that's something. The UFC is a business, and they have to look at it from a financial standpoint. How much longer can we pay this guy this much money to do a job where we don't see a way we can market him in a positive, in a forward direction? Yeah, we can build people off of him, but how many more times do we want to do that? So I think it's one of those things where people are feeling a sense of urgency. Nobody really has the list of 60 names, and the big ones and the small ones, whoever they may be. But everybody kind of feels like they might be on that list. Yeah. So there's a sense of urgency in the fights, and you can kind of feel it.
No question. And Jose and Wonderboy certainly
passed the test, huh?
Passed the test and showed that they're real contenders in the division. I mean, when you think about who Jose lost to, he lost to the champ, Peter Yan. Yeah. He lost to Marlon Moraes, but a lot of people think he won that fight. Right. Very good argument for the fact that he won that fight. Marlon was the belt holder not that long ago. Yeah. So these guys are still competing at the very top. And they're showing you that there's levels to the game. Yeah, might not be able to go beat the champ right now in Peter Yan, but give me somebody between 10 or below, top 10 to top 15, and I'll show you where my true level really is. And I think you saw that tonight. Speaking of Marlon Moraes, he suffered a pretty vicious loss to Rob Font. That was one of my underdog picks that I had. I think what they're doing up there in Massachusetts is really solid. I think he's got a good camp. He's kind of catching his stride. He's exciting. He's young. He's powerful. And he got the job done by finish tonight. Yeah, absolutely. I thought we might see Marlon come out and look really good. And I do believe he was looking pretty sharp right at the beginning. But Rob Font, props to him. He looked great out there. And he's an intense individual. I like him. I think I can get behind him. And I see a bright future for him as far as his competition at 135 is going to go. Yeah, he's an exciting one at 135 because he's explosive, he's powerful. One of the things that people always say about the lighter divisions is that they don't have the power to finish the evening. Yeah. Rob Font certainly does that. He finished the guy that head kick knocked out Aljamain Sterling not that long ago. Right. And Marlon Moraes. It's pretty impressive. He finished him in the first round. Yeah. Cejudo wasn't even able to do that. Cejudo got beat up for the first round. So, shout out to Rob Font. I think he put a lot of people on notice tonight, and I think he's got a very bright future. 135 is becoming very exciting, especially with the reemergence of TJ Dillashaw early next year. Right, and we don't want to pass over that because one thing that we will say, we were talking about the 60 fighters on the chopping block. And Jose kind of solidified his future with the promotion as far as skills and fighting, the X's and O's go. But I would also say that a very important part of tonight, as far as Wonderboy Thompson and Jose Aldo goes, is they created business for themselves in their post-fight victory speech. He said, I want to fight, and I don't speak Portuguese, but from what I understand, he called out TJ Dillashaw, which is a great match. Sign me up. I will always watch that fight. TJ Dillashaw versus Jose Aldo sounds fantastic. Sounds like a perfect number one contenders match for while we wait and see what happens between Aljo and Peter Yan. And then Wonderboy calling out George Masvidal. I think what they did in the ring solidified their jobs for a little while longer. And then what they did in the post-fight gave them something, to promote and work towards in the future. And the UFC can't really chop something off and cut somebody when they have, unfinished business in the promotion. Right. And big fights that are, now everybody is just heard about and now they have to see. Like the Jose Aldo versus TJ Dillashaw fight is not a fight that I was even thinking about before tonight, but after he mentioned it, now I have to see that. Right. And it allows business to be done with the up-and-comers, the Aljamain Sterling taking on the young new champ in Yan. See what's going to happen with Rob Font now. Right. Jose versus TJ is a perfect, as you said, a number one contenders fight for the winner of that fight. It allows an incredible fight between two legends, arguably the best 135er of all time against arguably the best 145er of all time. Both guys are still relatively in their primes, and we could see an excellent fight between those two, and then that sets up an amazing fight for the winner of Aljo and Yan. And oh, by the way, if it is one of those situations where you have an amazing victory and TJ is able to come back because Jan has already beaten TJ and get in there versus Jan, or if Aljo wins, that allows the winner to immediately fight probably the best ever in their division in TJ Dillashaw right out of the gate. So I think there's a lot of exciting parts and moving pieces at 135 right now. I got to tell you, 125 and 135 is as exciting as it's ever been.
Yeah, it feels like they got injected with a whole like some adrenaline. There's some whole new life going on down there, and I think that the body types at 125 and 135 are very similar. So we will be able to see a lot of guys bounce back and forth. A lot of 125ers move up. You know, I would love to see Davis and Figueiredo at some point fight at 135. I think he would fill his frame out properly, and obviously he has a lot of unfinished business at 125. But it's just a cool thing because it's unlike the 155, 170 thing where it's really difficult to see somebody compete at 155 and successful as like a number one contender and successfully compete at 170 as a number one contender, because the body types are just totally different. The guys that can hang at 170, they'd have to saw a limb off to make it to 155, and the guys at 155 are just undersized. Yeah. So 125, 135 makes more sense as far as bouncing back and forth.
No question. And I mean, if Davison ever moves up to 135, I think everybody, including the champ Peter Yan, would take notice. And if they got the call to fight him, would take that very seriously and look at that as a very dangerous fight. Davison Figueiredo has got crazy power at 125, and he looks like a skeleton when he weighs in.
Add 10
I can
pounds
only
of power.
imagine what 10 pounds of power would do. That would be very scary.
Yeah.
Talking about the 170ers, also we had the incredible fight tonight between Michel Piedade and Chaos Williams. It was a good fight, but I was expecting a little more. And I think what you see in Chaos is a very patient counter striker. And he likes to just if you come in and overextend a little bit, or if he picks up on a tendency, he likes to just end the night right away. Mm-hmm. And as it's referenced in the fact that he, before tonight, had only fought 57 seconds in the UFC and had 2 knockouts within that 57-second time period. Michel Piedade is not going to give you that opportunity. He's going to dance around. He's going to do his thing, and he's going to stick and move and then come in with a combination and then go back to the out-of-range sort of unorthodox maneuvering. And I think Chaos Williams kind of got lulled to sleep a little bit and trying to follow Piedade and look for that perfect opportunity. And Piedade is the kind of guy that's never going to give you that perfect opportunity.
No, yeah, and I was wrong on a lot of my predictions this fight card.
This one was the Barnhill brothers' worst predictions.
It might be. And one thing I also said was this is going to be fight of the night probably, and I was wrong on that. It was a little bit of a dud, and I don't blame Michel Piedade that much for that, because he was trying to bring the fight. He has that very strange style where he stays out of range and it almost feels like he's like dancing, but then he does come in and try to engage, and Chaos Williams just never seemed to let his guns go.
Yeah.
He seemed gun shy, and he seemed like he was always waiting for the perfect one-punch knockout opportunity. And when you do that in this sport, you'll never find it. You have to go, if you're an intense fighter with a lot of power like he is, you have to go create that opportunity.
Right.
And not saying you have to go chase somebody down, because that's how you can get hurt. But what you want to do is, if you're a counter puncher and a counter striker, a lot of people don't understand this, but they don't just wait for somebody to do something and react better than non-counter strikers. They go do things that make somebody react a certain way, and then when they anticipate correctly, they expose whatever it is that they were trying to do. So you can't sit back as a counter striker and just wait for somebody to do something and then counter. You have to create that thing, and it's almost like magic, because what you do dictates what they do. But all the while, that's what you're wanting, and then you end up, exposing them on like the second retaliation. It's a very strange, difficult thing to do. Chaos Williams has the ability to do it, but it just didn't seem like he was trying to engage in the fight at all and get Michel Piedade off of his momentum.
Yeah, and I think if somebody's looking for an example or reference for what you're talking about there, it would be Eddie Alvarez versus Conor McGregor. And if you see when Conor put Eddie Alvarez down, he steps right into range, and you'll see him lower his guard a little bit, almost enticing that straight two to come over from Eddie. He's almost dictating Eddie shot without Eddie even really noticing it. Eddie throws the 2, Conor slips, bang, 2-2 uppercut, and that was all she wrote. So you have to go out and create those opportunities. And if it's a guy who's not allowing you, or who's trying to purposefully stay out of range until he wants to come in range, you kind of do have to take the fight to him in a cautious way. You can't just throw caution to the wind and charge at him and go crazy, but you have to take the fight to them. You have to put them within range, and you have to create that opportunity for yourself to be able to hit the counter strikes that you want. And it seemed to me as if Chaos almost was a little bit hypnotized by the maneuvering of Piedade, and he just didn't really let his guns go.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Maybe we'll see Chaos Williams and Geoff Neal get in there. You know, usually people that win fight other folks that win. People that suffer a loss fight others that suffer losses. I think that would be a pretty fun matchup, right?
Oh yeah,
well, Geoff Neal, Chaos Williams. They both kind of move with a similar tempo. Very great with the basics, but they don't like to get too flashy, and they're very cautious. So I think you'd see some fireworks happen eventually. You know what? This is something you would actually see the audience play a role in.
Yeah.
If there was a live audience there for the fight tonight, or if Chaos Williams and Geoff Neal fought and they started to maybe get some boos or something, they might flip the switch and start. And there's pressure that comes when you hear a crowd booing around you, or they start to get under your skin a little bit. And I think if that were to happen to somebody like a Chaos Williams, maybe even a Geoff Neal, you would see some fire come out of them, and you might get some crazy stuff.
That's a good point. It's hard to we haven't seen that in such a long time, but it does play a factor into that. If you're getting booed,
people turn it on,
and people are letting you know that they're visibly paying customers who are buying into your product, are letting you know that they're visibly upset with and they're vocalizing it, that they're upset with your performance. It does make a difference.
Oh yeah, and they 2 thumbs boo you, 2 thumbs down boo you, as they have a right to, because they paid hard-earned money, and they're
6 beers deep, and they want to see a fist fight.
Yeah, they're entitled to their emotions and how they feel, and I think it does change some fights. All in all, I think the way the UFC handled 2020 is fantastic. Crowd or no crowd, we've got to see a lot of great fights, and even though we're only watching them from home, that's much better than not having the sport at all.
Absolutely. And then just the last one on that card was Greg Hardy suffered a setback.
Yeah.
Marcin Tibura
I was wrong on that again.
Was able to win in the second round by stoppage. Greg Hardy's a great striker. He's extremely powerful. He's got KO power. We know that. We know he's a super athlete. He does not have the technical proficiency to handle the top guys on the ground.
No.
He was not in a position that's difficult to get out of tonight. He was kind of in like a half guard position, and he was seemingly he didn't know what to do to get out of that position. He could have just hipped out and tried to stand up, tried to re-engage. He kind of allowed himself to sit there. I think he was exhausted. I think he needs to work on his cardio, and he just covered up. And if you're covering up and you're on bottom and you're taking shots, ref's going to stop the fight.
Yeah, it's part theater, and if the ref sees you and it appears that you're getting beat really bad, even if it's not as bad as it appears, the ref has to do his job and step in and stop it. Props to Marcin. He did a great job. I will say Greg Hardy looked very good in the first round. I think that was some of the best footage of Hardy that we've gotten to date. And he's got a lot to work on, but I still see him figuring it out and continuing to move forward with his MMA career.
I think so. Kevin Holland finished Jacare from a similar position last weekend.
Oh,
so
yeah.
There are things you could do from that position. Greg just was not well-versed enough to do it.
Yeah, it's not good night Irene from there.
That's it. Guys, thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the last fight card of 2020. We're going to keep putting out some content throughout the holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, and we will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful day.
Fights.
And please always like, comment, subscribe, and check us out on audio where you listen to podcasts.
Bingo. Peace.